pourrais répondre en anglais. Depuis ce matin, on a entendu beaucoup parler de chiffres, de produits, de risques, de contrefaçon, etc., de clients, de consommateurs. Est-ce que vous pensez, dans le cadre de ces 2 jours, aborder la problématique qui est que beaucoup des contrefaçons sont des contrefaçons soit d'État, soit avec la complicité des États ou de certains États. Je ne les citerai pas, mais je pense qu'on a des exemples. Est-ce que vous pensez ne parler que de combattre la contrefaçon au bout de l'échelle et non pas au niveau des causes, ou du moins des départs C'est ma question.
Je pense que vous relevez la complexité du problème, n'est-ce pas? C'est un problème qui exige donc une coopération publique et une coopération privée. Donc, votre question, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire par rapport au... Alors là, je pense qu'il y a bien sûr des obligations qui existent déjà dans les accords multilatéraux. Ce n'est pas un secret que, en général, la communauté internationale n'est pas bonne à la mise en œuvre des obligations. Si on regarde la période de coopération internationale pour les derniers 60 ans, on voit une bibliothèque qui a été construite de lois, de traités, mais très, très peu d'instances de coopération sur la mise en œuvre. Il y a très peu d'instances. Donc ça, c'est, je pense, ce cas est un cas exemplaire du défi que la communauté internationale a d'aller au-delà de simplement légiférer et de mettre en œuvre une espèce de surveillance ou du respect des droits. Et c'est une très, très grande étape parce que personne ne le veut. Aucun État veut franchir cette étape pour le moment. Mais sans cela, il est difficile de voir comment on va vraiment s'adresser à cette question. Il faut qu'on commence à développer les moyens pour une coopération.
Okay. The question is whether or not this conference is going to broach the subject of whether this is a problem of countries or states as opposed to groups and individuals. From Interpol's perspective, it's a problem of organized criminal groups, transnational organized criminal groups, individuals. You can read about countries that are attacked publicly time and time again for being supporters of counterfeiting. And in these countries, in all countries, Interpol's found that when you go there with a good plan, you don't have a bias in terms of who's responsible, who's not responsible. You want to find out how to investigate and prosecute people who are engaged in counterfeiting, medical products, whatever it might be. We've had great success. So from Interpol's perspective, I think there's better value to talk about organized groups, individuals, than to have this forum become a forum where certain countries attack other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for responding in English language, but I just wanted to tackle one other issue you mentioned. So, for example, the International Trademark Association, as an association for brand owners and consumers as well, and brand representatives, is tackling this issue by extending its reach out to the world and establishing offices in other regions to create this kind of awareness. But you especially mentioned that might be a problem of states and or countries. So we think that in these countries, which we don't mention by name, there might be still a problem. We are aware of this, but these are also the countries where there is an emerging industry. And this industry will face the same problems which our industry from the developed countries is facing right now. So they will address their own governments to give them this respective support. And I think this will help develop the idea of respecting intellectual property worldwide.
think we have time for a couple of more questions. Yes.
Hello, I'm Manoj from India, representing Best Trust of India News Agency. So I have three. Are you able to hear now? Yeah. I'm Manoj from India, representing the news agency PTI. So I have a few questions. The first one is for Mr. Nobel. So you were just talking about the Intellectual Property College. So can you just provide some more details about it? And secondly, I just went through this opening session. So in a developing country like in the case of India and all, there is always an issue of cost factor. If you go for the original products, it costs a fortune, mostly. So has there been any attempt to address that part of the issue in terms of cost factor in developing countries? In many people might not be able to afford the original things. So that might also increase piracy. And thirdly...
My brother. One question, maybe two parts, three questions,
Cool.
No. Okay. So let me just try the first question, or the first part of the question. The purpose of this college is to give investigators in the intellectual property crime area ways to learn at their own speed in many languages online around the world. It's going to be launched tomorrow. We have a booth set up here where you can get more information. It'll be also accessible on our website, and perhaps after this this session, I can give you one of my colleagues' name, and you can ask them 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 questions. On the other question, I would ask my colleagues here who are much more expert in the deterrence aspect of it in terms of cost versus resources.
Let me make one comment then, if I may, about cost. Yes, there are discussions that have been going on, and there are practices in place on, for example, tier pricing. Okay, so having different tiers or layers of pricing applying to the same goods or services in different parts of the world to accommodate the different purchasing powers that exist in those different parts of the world. So that is certainly something that business in its own interests is looking at all around the world. There's no legislation on it, there's no requirement on it. I would simply note that it is, of course, it is a development which goes against the grain of internationalization and globalization. So in a world in which markets are becoming more global, to divide them up in order to implement a policy of tiered pricing is also a practically difficult thing to do. So one of the concerns one of the concerns of business in relation to tier pricing is the possibility of the same products coming back into the markets, being sold at a lower price and coming back into the higher priced markets.
I would just add from the business perspective that pharmaceutical companies, others involved in that field, have been engaged in the discussions with the WTO or through the WTO on the TRIPS agreement, for instance, over the last several years in terms of reducing the price of some essential medicines for developing countries. And this has been successful. There have been essentially exceptions made to the intellectual property agreement, the TRIPS agreement of the WTO. And this has resulted in low-price medicines being more readily available in developing countries around the world. But it hasn't eradicated the negative effect of fake medications still competing even at low prices.
Do we have any more questions? We have just a couple of more minutes left.
Thanks. Hi, Trevor from World Trademark Review. It's just a very quick question with regards to something that was commented on earlier on, which was the recent tragic murder of a South African customs official. There's been calls online, and I'm thinking of sort of one particular petition for an investigation run by the WCO or Interpol or help in terms of finding the actors behind the actual hit. I just wondered if any discussions have taken place around that.
I can't comment on ongoing criminal investigations at all, so it's easy for me to answer this question.
The same. The murdered officer was a police officer who has been working very closely with the customs. And well, this is a very unfortunate event, and that officer has received training from us, and well, in cooperation with Interpol and others. And it is really tragic, but then we'll see how the investigation will evolve. Thank you.
Rick Mitchell, BNA. You say counterfeiting's not a north-south problem. How about an east-west problem? The last conference I attended on this subject, there was a lot of talk about China, Southeast Asia. You're not mentioning any areas in particular today, but what are the big problem? What are the big problem countries? Can you name them? Or has China really changed its act in the last just 2 years, 1.5 years, or is that still the big area? Thank you.
I just want to go on record again that I see little advantage to countries attacking other countries in this problem. I think it's a global problem. No region's exempt, no country's exempt. As far as China and the countries I mentioned from South and Central America, Interpol's cooperation with them has been great, and we found all countries where we go there with a comprehensive plan about why it's in the country's best interest to investigate and fight counterfeiting. We've had great success. I mentioned the initiatives we had in Africa and the initiatives we had in South America and Panama. So from Interpol's perspective, country bashing will bear little valuable fruit from our perspective.
I'll agree with Ron. I'll agree with Ron on this. You know, I think all of our organizations, and I think I'm pretty much able to make that comment, all of our organizations are very much involved in building the capacity to deal with the problem. And that in every country differs because the capacity levels are different and the problems in every country are different. We know the phenomenon affects all. You know, it affects all in different ways. Depending on their level of development, that will also give us the level of vulnerability as well of a country. But we, I think, are looking to construct an international alliance that will deal with the problem. And in that process of constructing an international alliance to deal with the problem, I think Ron is absolutely right. To single out any particular country publicly on the matter doesn't help us.
And from WCO point of view, I fully agree with two previous speakers. And I observe that there is increasing awareness at the country government level because in the end, when the economic development is there, well, internally, there is a problem. And then for the investment climate that all countries, governments are trying to improve, this could be very hurting issue. Therefore, I see that efforts, awareness raising was there, and we cooperate each other with other international organizations, the business to try to help those countries.
The official timekeepers are telling us that time is officially up. I think we'll take one more question. This is such a rare opportunity to have these distinguished people here. Please.
Yeah, I've just got a question from an Interpol perspective. In terms of the prosecutions that are taking place.
Could I just make a comment? Every